Well guys, this is it, the finale to the FNaF ranking series. Sorry it's taken so long. We've come a long way from Toy Foxy, but before I get into the meat and cheese of this video, I want to clear up some things about my last videos. For starters, yes, I am fully aware now of Withered Foxy's jaw not actually clipping through his chest in Fazbear Tycoon. The first few comments made that clear. Second, I left out quite a lot in my Bonnie video. I straight up forgot about Bonnet and Jacko Bonnie, but I did intentionally leave out Glitchtrap and Vanny. Well, when I say intentionally, I mean I never considered him a Bonnie in the first place, but then I thought maybe I should've, but anyways, I think Glitchtrap is far enough away from Bonnie as a character, as it's clear that this is not what Spring Bonnie looked like, and may just be Afton's own character he made himself. Because of this, and the fact he's very clearly not an animatronic or related to the Bonnie line, I'm fine leaving him out. It's the same with Vanny, really. Although Freddy kinda equates her to being the rabbit of the Pizzaplex, she doesn't fill Bonnie's role, nor does she call herself Bonnie at all. Even the spelling of her name is a reference to the word bunny, but not Bonnie. As for Bonnet and Jacko, I just kinda forgot they existed, but push Jacko right after Dark Springtrap and Bonnet just before Bon Bon, and there you go. So before we get into the actual ranking of this video, I want to introduce my co-host for this video, Isaac aka Th3Badd3st. Isaac and I each compiled our own lists of the Freddys we ranked and combined them together into one master list. This was not very easy. Turns out when you combine the biggest security breach simp and the second gnarliest security breach hater, your opinions kinda clash a lot. Combining this list was not easy. Here's some clips from the call. Alright, I think...
delete this, make it less confusing.
I think we'll probably like mutate your list with my list.
Yeah, I think it's your video, so you know, make the changes you want to make, of course. But also, wow, we're different.
Yeah, we definitely have different ideas a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
I thought I was like I cannot rank Phantom Freddy any higher in good conscience.
That's totally fair, yeah. Toy Freddy, though, this gets iffy now.
Toy Freddy is... I will fight you on that. Because he's technically Fredbear, but he has Freddy in the name. So it's weird. But my number one...
Let's not get into that.
But with all that out of the way, we can finally get into the list. Aside from the small little thing, we were kinda strict with how we defined what a Freddy was. Tangential bear characters like Nightmare or Ned Bear were not included. We figured they had to either have Freddy in the name or in some way canonically be based on Freddy, in the case of two specific characters that you'll see later. With that out of the way, let's go! Number 15. Rockstar Freddy. The last thing you want in your pizzeria is a discount Freddy, but as it turns out, that might be what you get. Jokes aside, this is one of the few ones Isaac and I actually agreed on, as we both kinda saw him as just boring. To me personally, I don't really like his design. It's a middle ground between classic Freddy and Toy Freddy, but those characters both work because of the extremes they take from a design standpoint. Rockstar Freddy is just such a nothing design. I get nothing out of it I can't get from other Freddys. From a functionality standpoint, he has no functionality, only existing as a decoration for your pizzeria. In Ultimate Custom Night, he does actually get to kill you, but there are multiple ways to deal with him. He's a non-threat. I do like his voice, but I cannot imagine it coming from any other Freddy in the series. Maybe that's a good thing? I just wish I had more nice things to say about the Freddy with arguably the best Funko plush. And now I pass the torch to Isaac.
At number 14, we have Glam Helpy, a character that only exists as a symbol of saving the game in Security Breach. Glam Helpy is still an adorable character, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with them, but they serve such an insignificant purpose that you can't really give them that much credit. They only appear on the save station, and they're totally good for fulfilling that role, but realistically, anyone or no one could have replaced Glam Helpy, and it wouldn't have mattered. Glam Helpy is a nice design, and it blends in with Security Breach's aesthetic, but they just simply couldn't be ranked high on this list because of their tremendous lack of depth.
Miss me? Number 13 is Twisted Freddy. I know I've been hyping Twisted Freddy up over the past few videos, but Isaac did make me consider just how few FNaF fans have probably actually read the book he appears in. Twisted Freddy is the main antagonist of the Twisted Ones graphic novel, and regular novel, I guess. So spoiler alert if you want to read those and haven't yet. Twisted Freddy is evil as hell, and appears so frequently in the novel compared to literally all of the other Twisted Ones. He does manage to actually kill the main protagonist, and his design is pretty damn cool, all things considered. Sadly though, he just doesn't stand up to any Freddy on this list with actual animation, except for number 14 and 15, of course.
Molten Freddy is coming in at number 12. Molten Freddy isn't actually as bad of a character as a lot of FNAF fans say he is, but that doesn't mean the critiques he gets aren't valid. The main critique of Molten Freddy is the character's design, specifically below the head. There isn't anything wrong with Molten Freddy's face, but the body is literally non-existent. Scott had to make 1 million models for FNAF 6, so I guess when it came to Molten Freddy, he was just like, yeah, Spaghetti Freddy, good enough. Aside from their hilarious body, Molten Freddy is a pretty decent character, they just kind of get outshined. The idea of bringing back the remains of Ennard to burn along with the others at the end of FNAF 6 is a pretty cool idea, so Molten Freddy has some decent lore. But the problem is that they aren't as interesting or significant as every other scrap character in the game. Molten Freddy is a character with a third of a good design and a decent story. That pales in comparison to the characters he appears right alongside with. So Molten Freddy is an okay character and not the worst Freddy, but they didn't have enough qualities to be that high on this list.
Number 11 is Phantom Freddy. Recently I played through FNAF 3 again, and Phantom Freddy is just so goofy. He's ranked low because A, he's not real within the actual story, B, he's a lazy reskin of Withered Golden Freddy, and we already had one of those in FNAF 2, and C, I just don't think his role in FNAF 3 is very suiting to the character the game is named after. He's got a goofy walk cycle, and I'm not the biggest fan of his mechanic, but he's not the worst. In fact, there are 4 characters worse than him.
At number 10, we have the mysterious Shadow Freddy. Although they may not have the most substance to them, Shadow Freddy in FNAF 2 is one of the most iconic Easter eggs in the Five Nights series that also returns in the post-night minigames of FNAF 3. Five Nights at Freddy's is all about the secrecy, and Shadow Freddy is a really interesting mystery. The theories surrounding Shadow Freddy are also a part of what makes the character pretty intriguing. Some fans have theorized that Shadow Freddy is the crying child, and the most widely believed theory is that Shadow Freddy is the spirit of a Freddy's employee that died in a spring-locked suit. Although FNAF is nothing but mystery upon mystery, Shadow Freddy in particular is one of those characters that's really interesting to talk about because of how little we really know about him. However, the lack of lore or information on him is also the reason he isn't very high on the list. Shadow Freddy is really fun to discuss and throw around some theories about, but because of how little there is to his role in the series, his importance and even his depth is a bit questionable. Shadow Freddy is a cool character, once again, he's fun to talk about, but there just isn't that much to him as far as the canon goes.
Number 9 is one that I fought hard to bring to the top of the list. Unfortunately, Isaac and I had to compromise here, so this is where Nightmare Freddy is going to reside. On a personal note, I love the premise of Freddy being the monster under your bed, and I think it makes him symbolically the best character in FNAF 4. However, his mechanic is just an evolution of the Foxy/puppet mechanic from previous games. His design is also not the greatest, though I personally love that he's oddly jacked for no other reason than it makes him look stronger and scarier. Of all the characters on this list that I think could throw me through the roof of my house, I fully believe it would be Nightmare Freddy.
At number 8 is Toy Freddy. Well, what can be said about Toy Freddy? Well, he's pretty fat. If you look at him, you can see he's really fat. Toy Freddy may be a big dope, but he's a pretty iconic character that's been around for many, many years. Obviously, his first appearance was in FNAF 2, where he actually serves an interesting role in my opinion. He has 2 phases when he's in the hall before he eventually steps into the office and stares at you with fully black eyes. He's the only toy that comes into your office from the hall, so I remember this being a really shocking moment back in the day, and the image of Toy Freddy with black eyes is actually still pretty off-putting. Toy Freddy in Help Wanted's VR version of FNAF 2 also has that same effect, but arguably better. There's actually an animation of Toy Freddy walking into your office, and that is one of the most terrifying sights to be seen in that game. And of course, Toy Freddy became an absolute legend when he became an MLG gamer in Ultimate Custom Night. What other FNAF character plays FNAF in FNAF? Should have given Toy Freddy the number 1 spot for that alone. Toy Freddy is cute, and he has his scary moments. He just isn't that high on the list because there are realistically much better Freddys. Toy Freddy doesn't really serve any purpose in the lore, there are more entertaining characters, and there are scarier characters. He's a good character, just not the best.
Number 7 is Funtime Freddy. Funtime Freddy, to sum it up, is the highlight of Sister Location. Just the entire game. It all rests on this one character's shoulders, and then Bonbon rests on his hand socket. Funtime Freddy is important to me on a personal level because it brought Kellen Goff into the FNAF series, and he's been my favorite Freddy voice ever since. His take on Funtime Freddy is some of his best work in the series and is the best in Sister Location. Forgive me, Heather Masters. In terms of design, it's actually a similar case as with Rockstar Freddy, but whereas Rockstar Freddy combines classic and toy Freddy and makes them something boring, Funtime Freddy adds a unique flair to the idea with the chrome finish and white color palette, kind of retroactively turning him into a polar bear in the process. Overall, no complaints from me.
Our pick for the 6th best Freddy is Helpy. You may be thinking, why is Helpy so high on this list? His name is literally Helpy, because he does nothing but act as a symbol for tutorials and general menus. And I would say, I will throw hands, Helpy is perfect. Helpy may not serve any great lore purpose, but this is a character that knows how to be memorable. This stupid little bear stuck in people's minds so much that he was even squeezed into FNAF Plus because Fiznum understands the brilliance of Helpy. I was actually able to convince DMuted to rank Helpy this high with a single moment of the series, and I think I can convince all of you with that same thing. In FNAF 6, Helpy snaps his neck if you fail the ball pit minigame. This will never not be funny.
Number 5 is Golden Freddy from FNAF 1. In terms of being a character you'll likely encounter, he's got no shot in terms of being one of, if not the greatest Easter eggs in horror history. Oh, you better believe. Now, I have to admit, I'm cheating a little because we now retroactively know that Golden Freddy is not actually a version of Freddy, but rather the ghostly apparition of Fredbear. But he does have Freddy in his name, so he counts par of the rules of this video. That said, considering he looks exactly like classic Freddy, a few hues more piss, I really do want to just call him a Freddy. Golden Freddy has a low chance of spawning after checking on the west hall corner when no one is occupying it, and his poster appears. Staring at him too long crashes your game. Another chance to see him is setting all the characters in Custom Night to read 1987, which will greet you automatically with a jump scare from him, and again crash your game. The mystery surrounding this character, the absurd chance of his appearance, and the rabbit hole that became the FNAF story following this character left a fierce impression on the fanbase. Nicely done, Scott.
Coming in at the number 4 spot is Withered Freddy. It's pretty hard to find someone that doesn't adore the Withered animatronics from FNAF 2. Withered Freddy may not be the most popular of the bunch, but I think we can still agree this is one of the best and one of the scariest official designs of Freddy Fazbear. There's a reason he's the one on the thumbnail and logo for the game. I'm sorry, Toy Freddy, but you just never stood a chance. The moment of Withered Freddy entering your office in the second game is such an iconic screen that has remained relevant to the series for years. Sure, it's mainly relevant because bad merch and bad articles always use that image for headers for some reason, but it still counts. Unlike Withered Bonnie or Withered Chica, Withered Freddy actually looks like he's going in to attack you when he enters your office, and I think that's really cool. This version of Freddy has such a disturbing appearance with the tears in his body and his really soulless eyes. Withered Freddy actually acts as a symbol of Five Nights at Freddy's in a lot of ways. The character is often used to represent the series in popular media, and that's simply because this is one of the best designs of Freddy, so it's not too surprising that he made it high on the list.
Number 3 is Classic Freddy, or as he was once known, Freddy Fazbear. Glamrock Freddy kinda stole that away from him in Security Breach's intro. What an asshole. Freddy is iconic for just how difficult of an enemy he is to balance in the original FNAF, preying on your inability to see him in the dark cameras and your poor power management. While personally, I don't think this mechanic is very fun to deal with a lot of the time, I do really like just how intense Freddy makes later nights of FNAF 1. I really don't have any complaints at all. Some people say his design hasn't aged the best, but when they say that, do they mean his design or this one render? I personally think his design remains one of the best in the series. It's the perfect balance between goofy and threatening. His lights out jump scare is my second favorite in the series, right after Withered Foxy's, and his laugh, oh my god, it's iconic. And kinda what sent so many people on a wild goose chase for dead kids. Of course, it's a bit weird now knowing that he's possessed by a boy named Gabriel and not a little girl, but hey, retcons just be like that, I guess.
Coming in all the way at number 2 is Glamrock Freddy. Glamrock Freddy is an absolute chad of a man. DMuted said I couldn't say anything else about him along those lines, but you know what I'm thinking. In all seriousness, it simply makes sense to give a lot of credit to Glamrock Freddy for being a character with an actual personality. He may not be as significant as some of the classics, but he actually, speaks. Glamrock Freddy is surprisingly adorable with just how much he really cares about the protagonist, but also doesn't want to hurt his friends because he believes they can't really do harm. He legitimately cares, and with Kellen Goff's very gentle performance for the voice, he just sounds like such a dopey, sweet bear. He is also pretty funny though, with Glamrock Freddy being a combination of a dad and a dog. He has those gentle, caring moments, like I said, but he also runs like a complete dope when you call him, and can be quite dumb at times, like when he describes what a fountain is to Gregory. It's also worth mentioning that Glamrock Freddy's design is pretty cool. As most people know, I'm personally not the biggest fan of the more flashy aesthetic that Security Breach has, but Glamrock Freddy has a very slick design that both stands out in the game, while simultaneously blending in with the environment. The incredible animation is also to his benefit. The way he squares up to the staff bots in one of the endings is such a cool scene. Glamrock Freddy has pretty much everything you could desire from a FNaF character besides two qualities that I'd argue are quite important. Glamrock Freddy holds essentially no lore significance, and has absolutely no scare factor. FNaF is a horror series with a focus on lore and mystery, and Glamrock Freddy is a giant dope with not a single interesting part of his story. Even basically every theory surrounding the character is either awful or straight up butchers the FNaF story. So there are points to be deducted. However, Glamrock Freddy is still a great character with a real personality, a nice design, and a fun role in the actual game. It only makes sense to call him one of the best Freddys out there. Though he is topped by one.
Number 1 is going to be the king bitch himself, Withered Golden Freddy, or as he's properly known, just Golden Freddy, because Scott couldn't be bothered to make a distinction. Withered Golden Freddy appears in FNAF 2, spawning in the later nights of the game, most commonly on night 6 or during the custom night. His appearance in this game is more of a Withered Freddy, so to me he shall now be called Super Withered Freddy. Contrary to his appearance initially, this version of the character lacks the distinct glowing eyes that made him appear ghostly in the first game. In this one, he looks closer to an empty suit.
Arguably the most significant factor in Golden Freddy's appeal is the lore connected to the character, which we decided to save for Withered Golden Freddy. There obviously isn't any sort of major difference between Golden Freddy and Withered Golden Freddy as far as their story goes, but this was our number 1 pick, and they are the most reoccurring iteration of the character, so it just made sense to save the best for last. Golden Freddy was already provided a pretty fascinating distinction from the others in the Give Gifts minigame from FNAF 2, where we are shown every child from the missing children's incident being given proper life. But aside from one last child, who briefly appears before Withered Golden Freddy ends the minigame with a jump scare.
That happened in 2014. It is now 2022/current year, and I guarantee you in the next 10 years, we are still going to be left guessing. Withered Golden Freddy's appearance in these minigames actually lends credence to a theory proposed by MatPat of all people, as in the same MatPat who has made Withered Golden Freddy the star of his thumbnails for 8 years. I'm just saying, man, Scott has given you high quality renders of his characters before, just pick a different one. Then again, I can understand why people are so in love with this guy's appearance.
The original Golden Freddy doesn't have a bad design by any means, but the Withered version is just nicer in pretty much every way. The colors are a little more saturated but aren't bright enough to remove the scariness of the design. The tears in the body make it more gritty and off-putting like the other Withereds. The ghostly appearance is much more apparent as they fade in and out of the hall, and you have a chance of preventing them, but a slip-up will give you a jump scare similar but not the same as FNAF 1. The Withered Golden Freddy model is simply nicer to look at, and us YouTubers quite appreciate that. Once again, MatPat has absolutely proven that fact.
Personally speaking, Withered Golden Freddy was my favorite FNAF character just like of all time for a while. Nowadays I kind of flip-flop between Nightmare Fredbear, Withered Bonnie, and Vanny, but I still think very highly of him, if only for being a massive improvement over arguably the best hidden character in FNAF 1, especially in making him closer to an actual character and present threat in the gameplay. I think this makes him overall a more important character to those who have played and beaten FNAF 2, which is my favorite game of the series. And with all that being said, I think it's about time we wrap up our number 1 spot, and this video in general.
When crafting this list, DMuted and I just measured the different variables that make a character good or interesting, and Withered Golden Freddy is an excellent blend. He's a really solid design with some of the most intriguing lore, and he took an already interesting character and actually made it a part of the core gameplay. He's an iconic member of the FNAF cast, and a character that represents a lot of what Five Nights at Freddy's is, with his mystery and secrecy. It simply made sense to us that Withered Golden Freddy was at the top of the list of Freddys throughout the years.
And with that, we have covered every iteration of Freddy from over the years. Let me know if you want to see me tackle all the other bear characters that didn't meet our qualifications someday, or any other characters you just want to hear me talk about. A while back I had an idea about making videos based on specific characters so I could talk specifically about characters I otherwise wouldn't cover. I definitely want to spotlight security breach characters like Monty or Vanny, and other characters I just think don't get enough love like Ennard or Molten Freddy. Regardless, I know this video has been a long time coming, so thank you all for waiting as long as you have. Be sure to check out my other videos on Juniors and FNAF 3, and check out Isaac's videos as well. They recently released a video covering Freddy Game Jam, covering a handful of fan games I really think are worth checking out. With all that being said, I'm DMuted. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share around. Peace.